Cowgirls Don't Cry, Red Dirt Royalty, Silver James, Harlequin Desire, page 82. Nadine returned frequently, perching beside Boots to chat, her laughter filling the awkward moments. Cass smiled but hid it behind her napkin. Nadine had a thing for Uncle Boots, and if she knew him at all, he was rather sweet on the woman as well. To her knowledge, Boots had never married, and she always wondered why now. Her smile morphed into a yawn despite the copious amount of coffee she consumed. "I think we need to get our girl home for a nap, Mr. Thomas." "Call me Boots, son." Cass stared from one to the other, feeling as if the iceberg had been dislodged from a glacier. She would no longer have to justify Chance's presence or dating him. The idea left her feeling dizzy. Were they dating? Or had last night just been a one-night stand? He'd stayed to help her in the barn, stayed to help in the barn today, and he certainly didn't seem to be in any hurry to leave. She wondered again what he did for a living. It paid well, whatever it was, based on his truck and his condo. Both men made a grab for the check, but Chance snatched it first. He left cash to cover both the tip on the bill and left the table and slid out, offering a hand to her. A bit shy, she placed her hand in his. Strong fingers closed around hers, and with a gentle tug he pulled her to her feet. He refused to relinquish her hand, and weaving through the diner to the door proved awkward. But she didn't care, not one for public displays of affection. This particular PDA made her feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Outside, Buddy appeared from around the corner. He barked and jumped up on her, making her laugh. "Bacon breath, you are so busted, dog." Boots climbed into the back seat with the dog, and she rode shotgun. Chance didn't seem the least bit embarrassed to hold her hand on the trip home, nor to kiss her in front of Boots once they arrived. "I'll see you soon, darling," his words whispered in her ear after the kiss. Cass resisted the urge to ask when that would be. Clingy and needy were not two adjectives that she wanted to add to her personal bio. Instead, she offered a wry smile. "You know where I live, cowboy." Chance sprawled in the overstuffed leather chair, looking the more at ease than he felt. He could see the reflection of his brothers' faces in the highly polished surface of the mahogany conference table. His siblings ranged against him on the other side, all but one, and his face dominated the wide-screen monitor on the wall. Chance studied them. Phones were ringing in Clay's office, and he looked not only distracted but uncomfortable as well. Of those arrayed on the other side of the table, Cord was the only one who would meet Chance's gaze directly. Chase had his smartphone out, thumbs flying as he texted or surfed the web or did something. Cash looked bored as he stared out the window over Chance's left shoulder. "This feels an awful like an intervention." "It doesn't have to be, Chance." As the oldest Clay took the lead, he sighed at the sound not quite synced with his image. "I'm in the middle of the budget battle. I don't really have time for this petty squabble." A burst of laughter erupted from Chase, and he paused in the texting. "Y'all calling the old man squabble petty, Clay?" I am in this instance, Chance. You've stalled long enough. Just file the papers, foreclose on the place, and get done with it. But you forget, Clay, there's a pretty girl involved. I think Brother Chance is letting his little head think for him." Chance glared at Chase and jumped in before the oldest brother could. "You're one to talk, bro. How many times have we brought your way out of woman trouble?" With a negligent shrug, Chase focused once more on his phone. "Whatever, but I'm tired of this command performance. I'm in the middle of negotiations for a new resort property, and I damn sure don't need to be jetting back and forth." Cash cleared his throat and sat up a little straighter. "Look, Chance, I know you like the girl. Hell, you've been with her almost every night since you've been back from Chicago. I'm betting she's pretty good." Before he realized what he was doing, Chance reached across the table and grabbed the front of Cash's shirt. his hand fisting in the folds of expensive Egyptian cotton. Shut up, Cash. I know damn good and well you've been tracking me. That ends now. Today, you hear me? I'll handle this my own way and in my own time. The single word cut through the tense atmosphere. Cyrus Barron filled in the doorway. You will do this my way and in my time. Chance released Cash and faced his father. The old man looked right through him. His heart pounded and anger surged up from his gut. Why is this such a big deal? It is a big deal because I say it is. Cyrus stalked the rest of the way into the room and stopped at the head of the table. He stared at the middle son, and then his face twisted as if he stepped in manure. That old bastard died before I could settle the debt between us, so I'll settle it with his brat. Wanting to pound his fists on the desk or on his father's face, Chance clenched them at his side and breathed instead. Forcing his anger down, he looked for the right argument. If the old man figured out Cass was important to him, all bets were off. Cassidy Morgan plans to sell the place and then return to Chicago. She has a herd of cattle. Once they're sold, she can pay off her father's medical bills. We can buy the place from her with one offer and a certified check. He didn't back down from his father's glare. Cyrus leaned over the table and jammed his finger onto Chance's chest. It took every ounce of self-control to keep from breaking his father's finger. Ben Morgan double-crossed me and stole something important. I vowed then and I'd ruin him. It may have taken almost 40 years, but by God, I will have my revenge. Now, sit down and shut up, Chancellor. You always were the runt of the litter. His father faced the monitor. Clayton, you better have that damn Senate committee straightened out on the oil pipeline bill. Chance sank into his chair. Old taunts still hurt, but he wasn't the little boy anymore. He opened his mouth to continue the argument, but snapped it shut as Cord delivered a shift kick to his shin underneath the conference table. He pressed his lips closed and glared at his father in silence. I made a few phone calls, the old man continued. That should take care of it. Don't screw it up, Clayton. No, sir, I won't. Cyrus cast a glare on his other sons and missed the grimace on Clay's face. Chance caught it right before his father's eyes zeroed in on him again. As of now, Ben Morgan's brat will no longer have a way to get those cows to market. The cynical smile on his face spoke volumes. Chance braced for the other shoe to drop. We'll foreclose on the property and she'll be left with nothing but a crapload of debt. Morgan's remaining medical bills are over $50,000. We'll come up and everything else, lock, stock, and barrel, and throw her and that old SOB Boots Thomas out on their butts. My notes itches. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. Chance got roiled. No, you cannot have my book. Rip, quit it. Rip, no. I love you, but no. Thank you. Okay. Go get a toy. Okay. Chance got roiled and he fought down a wave of nausea. What the hell was the old man doing? Cass had nothing to do with this ridiculous feud. His father was out to ruin a woman Chance cared about probably more than he should, given the circumstances. He bit his tongue and remained silent. He knew the old man too well. Positive there was even more to come. His father pinned him with a cold stare. Quit stalling, Chance. I sent you to law school and let you start a law firm for a reason. Now get those papers filed. I want the foreclosure done deal and everything liquidated. The old man's lips twisted into a parody of a smile. Well, everything but Legend's double rainbow. That little colt will finally be mine, too. His father dismissed him with a negligent wave of his hand and turned his attention to the others. Now what the hell else have you morons managed to screw up? Chance turned out the conversation, stewing in his own anger. He looked up to catch Cord studying him. His brother's expression both speculative and serious. He stared back. They were all chips of the old man's block, where Chance had once had some pride in that. Now he wondered, what the hell did he try so hard to win this man's my nose. I hope it's good news. Anyway, respect, forget love. Cyrus Barron only loved power and money, yet Chance had spent his entire life trying to please the old bastard. Blood sticks together, boys, and you all better remember that. No one takes care of a baron but another baron. The rest of this world doesn't give a damn, so why should we give a damn about them? Family is all that matters. Y'all clear on that? Silence reigned in the void left by the old man's departure. Even the phones in Clay's office had stopped ringing. Chase pushed his chair away from the conference table, stood, and presented his backside to his brothers. Is there anything left? He wooed dramatically as everyone chuckled. Nice to know there's still something after that butt chewing. He turned back around and focused his gaze on Chance. Do us all a favor. End this thing with a Morgan girl. Get the job done and get the hell out of Dodge. There's not a woman alive who's worth the old man's wrath. Chance remained still, staring at all of them in turn. This doesn't bother any of you? Clay's exasperated voice issued another from the monitor. Since when did you go all noble, Chance? I don't have time for all this crap. Do your job. The monitor flickered to a blue screen. Cash and Chase, like the twins they were, walked out shoulder to shoulder without saying a word, leaving Chance and Cord at the table. What? He glared at his older brother. Man, you have it bad. Cord shook his head from side to side, his expression solemn. You really need to get over this girl. Why? Tell me why we have to destroy her. Cord leaned back in his chair for a moment. Chance thought his brother would prop his boots up on the highly polished wood of the table. Why not? It's what the old man wants, and the old man gets what he wants. The old man gets. Yeah. We've been saying that our entire lives, Cord, but what makes him right? Cord laughed a deep, rolling laugh straight from the gut. I never said the old bastard was right, Chance, but he is who he is. He will always run roughshod over anyone who got in his way. This time it just happens to be a gal you have the hots for. If looks could kill, as the old saying went, Chance's brother would have been a barbecue. Shut up, Cordell. He pushed to his feet and strode out the door, his brother's laughter following in his wake. Chapter 9. Chance chewed on the handful of antacids he'd just taken outside his office window. Oklahoma City spread out to the southwest like a crazy quilt of a building, park, and river. Sunlight glinted off the fuselage of a plane lining up for landing on a runway at Will Rogers International Airport. The door opened behind him, but he didn't turn until he heard a heavy body drop into one of the wind-back chairs arranged in front of his desk. I don't really want to talk to you. Cord tilted his head. Fine, don't talk. I just want you to listen anyway. Didn't you say enough downstairs? No, I said what the old man wants to hear when he plays back the tapes of the meeting. Chance pressed his palms on his desk and leaned forward. He glowered, hoping to cover up the despair he really felt. Just towing the family line, then. When Cord didn't reply, he sank into his chair. He closed his eyes and dragged the fingers of one hand through the others carefully, combing his hair. Damn it! Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Cord? Let's trade places if you think this is so easy. Let me run the ranch and the oil company. You have to go to law school and do all the legal crap. You serve papers on a sweet little girl who's just trying to do the right thing. You sit in that chair and do all the old man's dirty work? Wow. You might actually have a conscience after all. Chance rolled his eyes. Shut up, Jiminy Cricket. Leaning back, Cord propped his boots feet up on the desk. Tell me about her. What's to tell? Well, there must be something since she has you've tied up in knots. She's sweet and funny and doesn't want to be a cowgirl. You forgot sexy, Chance. Yeah, she's that too. I finally figured out how I knew her. Know her. Chance rocked forward, his eyes narrowed into a glare. You know her? Whoa, bro. Not in the biblical sense, unlike you. Cord waggled his eyebrows and laughed at Chance's remark. Down, boy. That just confirms my suspicion. She was named the championship cowgirl at the Denver Stock Show the last year we competed. She looked mighty fine in those tight jeans, but was way too young for me. Closing his eyes, Chance leaned back in his head and tried to relax. When you called me in Chicago, I was trying to pick her up. I didn't know who she was then, Cord. Not until I got home. She just wants to sell the place, pay off her father's debts, and get on with her life. In Chicago, without him. Damn, Bubba, you have it even worse than I thought. Shut up. What are you going to do? If she finds out the old man is behind her troubles, she'll hate you. Is it too much to hope that she doesn't find out, at least until I get her out of my system? Cord rolled his eyes. Get her out of your system, yeah? Right, like that's going to happen. You don't have a clue, Chance. She rode you hard, you put you up wet, and now she's got her spurs dug deep. If the circumstances were different, I might actually enjoy watching you fall from grace. Chance raked his fingers through his hair. Our father is a real son of a bitch. Yeah, you got that right. Cass stared at a pile of bills in front of her. She puffed out of breath, and straggle of her hair hanging in her eyes danced. Picking up the checkbook, she sighed. No matter how many times she ran the numbers, there was way more that owed than what was in the bank. Even if she drained her savings account, she had to get those cattle sold, and she had to do it soon. She called everyone on her father's list of cattle haulers. The answer remained the same. You're from the Crazy M? Sorry, we're booked solid. No, we don't have even one truck to spare. Sorry. Everyone was sorry, or not, but not one cattle hauler would accept a contract from her. She placed another call to an independent hauler her dad had used for years. I'm sorry, but I can't do a thing for you. It's a real shame, too. I thought the world of your dad. I can't believe that every trucking line in the 3 states is busy hauling cattle. The man on the other end of the phone line cleared his throat. The nervous sound made Cass wonder what was going on. You don't have another contract, do you? Her throat. He cleared his throat again, but didn't speak. Why? If you thought so highly of my dad, why won't you haul this cattle for me now? It's not you, hun. Then what is it? Not what? Who? She heard him take several breaths. Look, I can't say anything more. I'm sorry. Things are what they are, and sometimes a working man has no choice. Please don't call me again. The phone clicked, and after a moment of dead air and dial tone echoed in her ear. Now what the heck was that all about? Boots looked up from his paper and crinkled around his eyes, looking sad. I was afraid that's what was happening. What? Her voice sounded sharper than intended, but she was so frustrated she wanted to punch something. Do you know what's going on, Uncle Boots? It's a long story, honey, and I'm not positive, but I have a suspicion that a man by the name of Cyrus Barron has thrown a monkey wrench into things. Everyone knew that name, but she asked to be sure. As in Barron Oil and Barron Land and Cattle Company and Barron Entertainment. Her voice squeaked a little. That would be him. But why in the hell would he care about me hauling 500 head of cattle to market? I told you, it's a long story, honey. There's something maybe you need to know about the Barons. Before he could continue, Buddy jumped up and began barking madly. He hit the door and banged the unlatched screen open. A muffled voice greeted the dog, and then Boots were on the wooden porch, proceeded a knock on the door. May I come in? Cassie's voice sounded resigned, and she answered, "Come in, Chance." He held the door and followed the dog inside. Her eyes looked bruised, and something in his chest shifted. Chance glanced in the pile of papers in front of her before his gaze slid over to Boots. "Everything okay?" "No." Chance wanted nothing more than to take her in his arms, and she looked so fragile, so beaten. "What's happened?" Her frustration bubbled over. "I can't get anyone to transport my cattle to market." He replied carefully. "It's spring. Everyone's shipping their feeder calves." She shook her head, adamant, when she added, "No, they don't have trucks available to me." Chance cleared his throat and glanced away. "That doesn't make sense. You haven't been talking to these people, listening to their lame excuses?" "I'm not paranoid." She thumped the table. "I've called everyone listed in Dad's files." Cass blew out a huff of air that ruffled her bangs and slumped back the wooden chair. "I don't understand why. I mean, Dad had a great reputation and he always paid his bills. I can't even get the bank to call me back about the loan I told you about." She snatched a handful of bills and waved them. "The hospital, his doctors, even the funeral home. I can't pay anything until the cows sell. And if I can't get them to market, how the hell can I sell them?" Cassie looked so small and vulnerable. Chance wanted to gather her into his arms. A tear spilled from her eye, and she scrubbed at it, but then smearing it away. "And that's not the worst of it." He gave up, striding across the room, pulled her into his arms, and held her. "What else is going on?" She shifted, and he kissed her temple. "It's okay, baby, I'll have you. My boss called. If I'm not back at my desk tomorrow morning, I'm fired. I have rent due on my place in Chicago. And bills. And I've spent almost everything on my checking account, keeping the things going here till I can get my daddy's estate settled." Chance ground his back teeth together, anchoring his anger to keep it from spilling out. He wanted to hurt someone, his father, her boss, himself. He was every bit as guilty as anyone. When she pushed away, he dropped his arms. "I'll be fine." Cass turned on her boot heel and marched toward the door. "I need to get away for a while. I'm going for a ride." She held up her hand, palm facing them like a stop sign. "I'm going alone." The screen door banged behind her, and Buddy nosed it. He looked back at the two men and whined. Chance walked over and opened the door far enough for the dog to slip through, then let it close with a gentle bump. He watched the angry but broken woman stomp toward the barn and fought the urge to follow her, to take her into his arms and promise her that everything would be fine as long as his father persisted in his vendetta, gathering nothing would be ever fine but for Cassidy Morgan. And now the other shoe had dropped. "You know who's behind all this trouble with the cattle?" Chance continued to stare out the door, refusing to look at Boots. "I have my suspicions." "You going to do anything about it, son? That little gal thinks the world of you, you know." Would he? Could he? He'd spent his whole life in his father's shadow. As the family attorney, he filed the lawsuits and defended them, always putting Cyrus Barron and whatever Barron enterprise first. The old man was always right, and the whole world was always wrong if they didn't agree. Chance patted his pocket absently, hoping he'd slipped in the bottle of antacids. He hadn't. Was Cord right? Was he finally developing a conscience? If so, it was a hell of a time. He needed to be detached. Uninvolved. Cold. He meant to sleep with Cass, get her out of his system, and walk away. But here he stood at the door of her house, watching her run away so she could cry alone. His father would crush her, and he could do nothing but stand by and watch. "I have to go." He pushed the door open and stepped onto the porch. "And here I thought maybe you'd grown a pair." He couldn't even work up a smidge of righteous anger. The man was right. Cassidy Morgan had far more courage than he ever would. "I'm sorry, Boots." He mumbled the words as he trudged down the steps. He didn't know if the other man heard him and didn't care either way. As he opened the door of his truck, he paused to watch Cass riding the big sorrel bareback charge out of the barn, race across the field toward a little line of trees. What felt like a steel band constricted his chest and his pulse hammered in his ears. Maybe he was having a heart attack. That would solve everything, so he would almost hoped he was. Chance climbed into the truck, knowing he was a coward. He glanced at the house where Boots stood in the doorway, watching him. The best thing he could do was leave, get out of Cassie's life, do what he had to do, and then head to Vegas for a 2-week binge of wild women, strong drinking, and lots of gambling. Except never seeing Cass again tore at his heart. The thought of touching another woman held no appeal. That left booze and poker, and he wasn't a big fan of either. "I'm sorry, Cassidy Morgan. I'm sorry. I'm not the man you deserve." Chapter 10. "No." Cass glared at the man sitting across from her as the booth at Nadine's diner. "You aren't thinking this through, sugar." "No, Boots. I can't take your money. Honey, your daddy was my best friend. He was more like family than my own blood. And so were you. Family helps family." Cass refused to look at his earnest face. Her untouched breakfast cooled on the plate as she drew desultory designs on the table from the condensation ring left by her ice water glass. "Sandra agreed to box up the stuff, and I want to keep it and ship it, and then have it tagged sale to dump the rest. I gave notice, so I should get my apartment deposit back, and the utility deposits will pay off the final bills I owe up there." "You aren't going back to Chicago?" She hated the hope that she heard in his voice. She'd done a lot of thinking in the last few days since her firing. She loved Chicago, loved her job, her dinky apartment, and the wind whistling off the lake so cold it could cut. She hated the heat and the dust and the smells of living on the ranch, the dirty, back-breaking work, didn't she? "I can't afford it right now, Uncle Boots, not until I get things settled here." She glanced up. "No, I'm still not going to take your money. You need it. Daddy wanted you to be comfortable. So do I." "Honey, I don't need much. You're always just as stubborn as been. Always got to do it your own way." She shrugged and dropped her gaze to the water droplets she made. "What, my cooking not good enough for you, Miss Cassidy Ann?" Nadine had appeared, coffee pot in hand, and her voice held not a licking but of chiding. "You look like you lost your best friend, hun. You want to tell old Auntie Nadine about it?" Try as she might not to, she felt compelled to look up at the woman. Concern radiated in Nadine's expression, even as the skin around her eyes crinkled from her friendly smile. "Everything looks better with a full stomach and a cup of hot coffee." "I don't think buttermilk pancakes will solve my problems, Nadine." The woman shooed her over and plopped down on the booth bench beside her. "But sometimes talking things over with friends does. Boots told me a bit of what's going on. I'm sure sorry for your troubles. I know your daddy didn't figure on this crap happening. He was a planner, Ben Morgan was, always one step ahead of life and his thoughts. We just need to do the same." For a moment anger welled up. How dare Boots discuss her business with a stranger? But then she saw the expression on his face and things cleared up. Nadine wasn't a stranger, not to Boots. He was sweet on the woman, and Nadine returned those feelings. Honey, your daddy had a passel of friends. He also an open hand when it came to helping folks. I'm sure they'd all step up to return the favor. You just need to figure out what it is you need." I need to get my friggin' herd to the market. The word erupted before she could think about them. Her voice filled all with the anger and frustration she tampered down for a week. A man at the counter swung around on his stool. That's what cattle haulers are for. Cass rolled her eyes. Duh, but none of them will haul for me. The man's brow furrowed and he scratched his head, which set up the John Deere cap on his head to be dancing. They locked you out? Evidently. That don't seem fair. She set back another duh. It is what it is. I still don't have a way to get the herd to market. If I use the old stock trailer at the ranch, I can only take a few at a time. Running them through the sale was the only way that loses money in the long run. I need a big old chunk of money to pay off everything. She didn't want to mention that she could barely afford gas for the truck. Almost everyone in the diner turned to look, and she resisted the urge to bang her head on the table. A little boy perched on a stool on the counter to continue to watch the TV above the cash register. An old black and white movie played along across the screen. He tugged on his mother's sleeve and pointed at the screen. Mommy, can I have a cartoons? The young woman chuckled. Can't believe you don't want to watch a cowboy movie, CJ, with John Wayne, no less. My nose is itching again. That means good luck, right? Or somebody's talking about me. No surprise. The younger offered a disgruntled expression and deep sigh. But cartoons, Mom. The man on the stool next to the boy winked. Your mom's right, son. John Wayne and a cattle on a trail drive is a classic Western story. Huh? The child scowled again before gazing at his mother impatiently. Nadine slid out of the booth and headed for the remote control. I think I can get the Cartoon Network, honey. Just give me a minute to see if I can find the right channel. Cass twisted in her seat to stare at the TV before it flickered quickly through several channels and the cartoons filled the screen. She shifted to stare at Boots. No. Boots looked perplexed at her as he returned her gaze. No what? Nothing. She shook her head. Just a really crazy idea. One that is way too far-fetched to ever work. I can see the wheels turning, honey. Why don't you just tell me? She counted to shake her head, denying the wild scheme forming in her brain. But Nadine returned with a fresh pot of coffee and refilled their mugs. Boots, you ever notice she gets the same look Ben got whenever he got a wild hair? No, there's no way. The idea is too ridiculous to even consider. Okay, we got to stop there again because the phone's about ready to die. So bear with me. We'll upload at page 99, starting with the word well, is where we're leaving off. By the way, I'm so sorry. I kept itching my nose and my eyes. My dog even got involved, Rip. But you know what? It made it for a fun time to read this book. We've got just a little bit left. So maybe by next time that we sit here and read, we can finish it. I'm hopeful. See you soon.